In the last section, we git cloned our app to our Linux server. In this section, we'll attempt to run our app from our server. So here I've already SSH'd into our Linux instance. So let's cd into our React prod 9, which is our built React project. And let's just hit npm start. And it seems our app is working. It's saying Node is serving our app.js file, which is our app. So let's try to access it from our public IP address. So it doesn't seem to be working here. Let's investigate why. So let's go back to our terminal and let's open up our main app.js file. And as you can see here, we have our port to 5010. So let's see if this will make a difference. Let's see if it's the port we're not getting right. And of course, before we are able to access the port, we have to add it to our security group. So let's do this here. And we do need to restart our app again. And there it is. There is our app. So I just wanted to show you that even though we are running it on a public IP address, we can still specify the port. So you're not limited to just using the default ports to run your app. You can, just like your local host, use different ports. So this is what I wanted to show you with this demonstration. But we do want to run our app on the traditional HTTP ports, which is port 80. And this is again the default internet HTTP port that every single website uses. You don't specify the port when you visit a website because it's the default port 80, which 99% of websites run on. So how do we do this? Let's go back to our terminal. Let's take the naive approach and just change the port to port 80 and see what happens. And unfortunately, it's not that easy. We do get a permission denied port 80. We can't just run our app like this on a HTTP port. How we're going to actually run our app is through Nginx, which we're going to set up in the next section. But before we do this, let's solve another problem. Right now, we have our app running, but to do anything else, we have to stop our app, do what we want to do, and then run it again. And this is, of course, not ideal because if we want to, for example, log out of our terminal, we're going to have to stop our app. So how do we keep our app running in the background without having us to manually keep our app running? And the answer is we're going to do this through PM2, which is a npm library that allows us to automatically start and keep running our app without us having to manually do it. And PM2 also restarts our app if and when our app crashes. So it's a very useful library. It's used in the vast majority of production builds. And I'll show you how to use it here. So first, let's change our port back to 5010. So let's now install PM2. So we'll do npm install -g PM2. And -g essentially specifies that PM2 will be installed globally. And this is important. So installing globally is important because, again, how else would PM2 do its job? If it was installed just in our local project, if the local project stopped, PM2 would have to stop. So in order for PM2 to do its job properly, it has to be installed globally. So even though our local project stops, it can still restart it because it's outside of our local project. And again, I know the commands are a little bit hard. If you didn't watch the previous sections, I said I will leave all the commands in a text file with a brief explanation of each, which will make it a little bit easier for you to see all the commands I wrote, even though I know it's a little bit hard to see it on the terminal here. So if there's ever a command you're unsure about, just see the article I'll link in this module. And after installing it, how we use PM2 is we do PM2 start in app.js. We do not use npm start anymore. We hand that responsibility off to PM2. And once we do this and go back to our browser, we see our app is running again. And again, it's running in the background. We're not manually having to start and restart our Node server. And let's see another command. Let's see PM2 list. This gives us a list of all the apps that are running by PM2 in case we have more than one app. To stop a running app, we use the command PM2 stop app0. App0 means the name of the app, which is app. 0 is the ID of the app. And you can see this with the PM2 list command. under our list, you can see app name, we have app, and then ID is 0. So that's how we stop an app. And if we go to our browser, we can see that it is no longer working. So our app did stop. And similarly, we can restart our app with the command PM2 restart app 0. And you can see in the browser, our app is running again. And then to delete our app from the list of apps, we do PM2 delete and then app 0. And this removes our app permanently, so we cannot even restart it. And the last command I want to show you is PM2 start app.js -imax. And what this command does is it runs our app in the maximum amount of computer cores. So remember, our server is a computer, and like any computer, has a CPU with multiple cores. And this is what our command does. It is a cluster manager that runs our app separately on each core of our CPU. So this is what imax is saying, the maximum number of cores. Use the maximum number of cores our server has available. And since Node is single-threaded, meaning it runs on one core at a time, this maximizes our performance and it maximizes our efficiency as well for our server. And this is essentially how you would run PM2 with clusters. So this is it for our PM2 demonstration. We'll go over Nginx in the next section.